So hello, welcome to this week's session. So as you can see from the title of the slides, I want to take you through the history of the New Zealand cadastral system in this session. And before I jump into it, I just wanted to go through what we discussed in class in the previous session. So if you remember, the main topic that we discussed was the cadaster and what the cadaster means. And then I also took you through some definitions about ownership, so land ownership, land tenure, and how cadastral surveyors gather and collate information related to land ownership, and they record that and store it as a cadastral survey information system. So I'll briefly go through the terms again. I'll spend a couple of minutes here. So a cadaster is defined as a land map parcel that has spatial information attached to it, and it incorporates all sorts of information about the status of land ownership. And the cadaster is the basis of our land tenure system. So land tenure, if you recall, the definition of land tenure is it's defined as a legal framework that details who owns land, but also who owns it for how long and under what conditions. So it specifies the type of land title. For example, whether it's freehold title, leasehold title, things like cross lease, Maori land, etc. So if you have a freehold title versus a leasehold title under land tenure, what is your, if you're the owner of the land, how long can you hold that land and under what conditions? So obviously it will be different for each case. I also highlighted the importance of cadastral surveying. So cadastral surveying is the backbone of the cadaster, and the role of cadastral surveying in updating and maintaining the accuracy of the cadaster, obviously because surveyors are responsible for gathering this spatial information related to parcels of land, which then helps to define things like ownership rights, restrictions, responsibilities. So those 3 R's that I went through in class as well. So the focus now on this class is to take you through the history of the New Zealand cadastral system and basically what makes it unique or different from other cadasters. Okay, because we know that cadasters exist in other places. So that cadaster is a term for the land ownership information system, land parcel information system. It exists in different countries. Maybe the level of sophistication in some places may be different to others. But what makes New Zealand's cadaster unique, and mainly why you need to know about the history of how it evolved to the cadastral system we have today. So why was it established mainly? And you may actually be asking yourself already, why do I need to bother learning about the history of the New Zealand cadastral system? So if we have things, technology and things like Land Online, why do I still need to understand the history of the cadastral system? That's a good question, but there are a few reasons. First of all, if you look at New Zealand as a country, And if you specifically look at New Zealand's surveying system, because it's a relatively young country in terms of its surveying system, at least, a large proportions of land had to be surveyed relatively recently. So let's say in the last 150 years, right? So again, I'm speaking about global standards here. So historically, the land title system, when those early surveys were done, looked very different to how it is now. But we still need to understand those differences because a lot of our survey records are historical. Okay, so if you are to carry out any sort of cadastral surveys, and some of you might already have experience with this if you are working on cadastral surveys, that the amount of historical records that we have and that currently exist on Land Online, there are a lot of these, and you may have to rely on these old historic survey records in order to conduct or carry out new cadastral surveys. So you need to be able to read them, you need to be able to understand them, interpret them, and use them. So I'm going to show you some examples in this lesson of old survey plans and the type of information they contain, and mainly the contrasting the similarities and differences between those old survey plans and our newer survey plans that we currently produce. So now, as you know, the Treaty of Waitangi was signed in 1840. So it's a good place to start talking about our cadastral survey system, because a year later, in May 1841, the first Surveyor General of New Zealand was appointed. So Felton Matthew, and as part of his new role, he was mainly responsible for establishing what was called the Deed Registry Office. And that was the office that was used for registering titles. So all the survey plans had to be provided mainly to the Surveyor General, and all the survey corners had to be monumented and recorded as proof of ownership. So obviously the system back then was not as complex as you have it today, but yeah, the deeds system, deeds is mainly the term that we use for the old land title system. If you're familiar now with the new term, so things like a record of title, yeah, so it's mainly the same thing, but not quite exactly the same. And I'll actually be going through and provide you with some additional information about the old deed system, land title system, and the current land title system. So yeah, there'll be some other information provided to you, but mainly the deeds office was established back in 1841 for the purpose of recording ownership through deeds. So for all measurements, these were adopted from the system that was used in the UK. So mainly New Zealand brought in, when settlers came in, they brought in the system that they were familiar with from the United Kingdom, and that was using the same units of measurements. So when it came to distances, for example, they used a measurement unit known as a link. Okay, so just to give you some ideas, so one link and you can see the number, the measurement or the conversion here on the slide. So one link was equal to 0.201168 meters. And this conversion is extremely important. You need to memorize this as survey, people working in surveying, doing some surveying work. You really need to know, this conversion. So please memorize it, because it's extremely important, and you will no doubt come across it in old plans that may pop up as part of your work. So a link is 0.201168 meters. From that, there was another unit that was derived from links. So that was a chain. Chain is equal to mainly 100 links. So one chain is equal to 100 times 0.201168. So a chain is equal to 20.11 meters. So as you can see in the diagram here in front of you on that slide, that's an example of a chain with the links on it. So the early surveyors had this piece of metal, and it was linked together and formed this chain. And it was mainly the art of the surveyor to take this out and use it to measure. And as you can imagine, that was the best technology that they had at the time for distances. And obviously, because of the advancement of technology that we have now, you can see that there's, in some rural areas, there has been they haven't been surveyed since those early days, and the pegs there may be out by half a meter or so, mainly because this was the technology that they used. All right, so we know we have a link. We have 100 links to a chain. Just to give you a sort of a visual of what a chain looks like. So if you can visualize a cricket wicket. So if you're not familiar with a wicket, you can look it up, but it's the distance between the stumps, or the distance between one set of sticks and the other. So now the conversion of the one link to a meter. Again, I need to emphasize this again, I feel. It's extremely important, because it's a thing that will come up. So any plans, any survey plans that were done prior to 1973 would be in showing distances measured in links. All right. So if you are relying on using those old plans, you need to be able to obviously convert between links and meters. Now, before I move on, if you see some of the old plans, and obviously now when we're talking about roads, interesting thing about roads is when they used to set out roads, they used to set them out all to be one chain wide. So that's why when you look on a plan and you see the width of a road, it is usually 20.11 meters. So that's the chain, okay? So if you wonder why it's oddly specific, 20.11 meters instead of 20 meters, this is why. So now you know that because of the use of the chain, that's how they would determine or measure the width of a road.